Okewe Ewubare. Community-Based Development Partners is a U.S. nonprofit organization focused on providing community-based health and education support to communities here in Nigeria. I am here today with its founders, Akin Adekeye and Tunde Abidoye. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So, what is this organization and what motivated you to start it?
Community-Based Development Partners, or CBDP, focuses on providing healthcare and education support to rural communities in Nigeria. Tunde and I started this in August 2017 because we've always thought of ways to come back to the communities we came out of and to make things better. We spent a lot of time growing up in Kwara State in Oman. I guess you would say our ancestral hometowns for both of us. We spent a lot of Christmas time and holidays, running around the hills and doing all kinds of fun stuff. But then growing up, you see the differences in opportunities for kids who come out of those communities and kids who come out of the kinds of places we grew up in, which is Ilorin, or eventually when we moved abroad, the kinds of things that kids in other, in the West were doing, so to speak. So we thought we had to find a way to bridge that gap somehow. We weren't going to wait for things to organically change or for the government to come in and save the day. So that's really how we got here.
For the scholars program, for the medical program, we had different cases where family members between the communities that we knew had illness or diseases that could easily be prevented. Right? And for some different reason in the system, there was no solution for it, and they either died or had a terrible experience with the healthcare system. The scholars program, mainly while we were growing up, there were role models going through educational system, and you could see your parents and uncles that went to school, worked hard, and got rewarded, right? So we had good role models. But nowadays, part of it in Nigeria, as it is because of the structure of the system that has changed. A lot of kids in secondary school nowadays don't have that, and we thought it would be good and kind of the rural areas to provide some of that. So that's part of why we have both the community health program and also the scholars program in addition to that.
How do you fund your organization and how can people donate to it?
We're a U.S. nonprofit, a 501c3, so we do take donations. But when we started out, we were not a 501c3, so mostly Tunde and I funded it. We have some support from family and friends. I'd say this is our third fiscal and calendar year. We probably had, I guess we took probably donations in the first year that covered about half of our expenses, but last year only about a third or less. And this year so far, maybe a third or less. And most of that is because, the more success we see with the programs, the more we're compelled to do, right? And usually fundraising lags, the needs on the ground. So when there's a need, we just cover it. Because for us, this is a passion project, right? And what we decided was if people come along, that's great and wonderful. So we have the structure to support donations, but the work can't stop just because we haven't been able to raise as much funds as possible. So we put in as much as we need to do what we need to do, and when we receive donations, we do more. That's how we look at it.
And also, in addition to that, the model that we have is that we'll do as much as we can do in the communities that we are currently, and we are open to have partners that want to do in their own communities, right? So that's why we have it as community-based development partners, where if you want to do it in your communities, just reach out to us. Based on our experience, we can discuss and give you some of the ideas and the bad and the good that we'll talk about later. And we are very happy to collaborate in different ways. so it doesn't have to be donation directly to us. Where it can be donation in the form of you going to your own community and trying to do other things similar to what we're doing.
Yeah, our first outreach, we actually tagged a pilot program, mostly because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know, we hadn't gone ahead of time to
Right.
check out what the community needed necessarily. You know, we talked to some people on the ground. We made the best guesses we could make. And we just said, let's go with the medical outreach. Let's do some things for the kids, give out some scholarships. We didn't know how many scholarships was enough. The real answer is it's never enough. So we've gone from 18 scholarships in 2017 to 40 in an additional 40 in 2018 to an additional at least 40 again this year. You know, so where the constraints come in is we're not able to expand to other communities, right? If we had more money, we would do more things outside of the one community we were in. But for now, between us, we put in enough to do what we need to do. And if we do get more, we'll just do more things.
How can people donate to it?
Yeah, so first they can go on our website, and it's cbdpartners.org. So we have a PayPal payment gateway. You can donate that way.
Our website is secured.
And the website is secure.
Yeah.
And you can also contribute your time, materials. Our medical outreach this year was equipping a local hospital in Omaha, Airport Hospital, and we raised a lot of in-kind donations, in materials, medicines, hospital equipment, wound care products. So you can give cash, or you can give materials, or you can give your time, or you can do all of the above.
And we also have Facebook and Amazon
Smiles.
Amazon Smiles. What else?
I think that's it.
That's
for
it.
now. We're working on others. I know, obviously, we do work in Nigeria, and for a lot of our, collaborators in Nigeria, they may not use PayPal. So we're trying to put a payment gateway for Naira on the website as well. But that's coming soon. Yeah.
What have you been doing in the last 3 years in line with the objectives of the organization?
So on the Scholars Program, the first year that we started, as Akin said earlier, we had about 18 students that were on scholarship. So that year, that was the main thing that we did. Right? But since then, we've added different things to it. The second year, we had added 40 more students to the Scholars Program. So they go through an exam from each of the public schools in the community. They send, the first year they sent 5 students each. Last year they sent 10 students so it's for students going from JSS3 to SS1. So we start with them from SS1. So they take our exam and we grade it, and we have a cutoff, typically about 11 or 13 out of 25. And then we try as much as possible to get at least one student from each school. So the last year we had about 40 students that was added to it. And then in addition to that, we also had the computer coding camp. So all the 10 students that were sent from each of the schools, we had put them all together, which is about 80 students. So there are 8 public schools in the community. So we bought about 25 computers, so they have to share. So we have classes every Saturday on computer coding, Scratch, and all those other things. Curriculum. We have a curriculum on how to code. So they learn how to build a website, what's the coding, JavaScript, HTML. So last year we took them through about a year of computer coding camp with that. So then this year, the outreach that we just finished, we had taken that we learned into a little bit of robotics and using Raspberry Pi, right? Taking the software and seeing the hardware side of it, right? So, and we'll talk a little bit more details on that later.
And for the medical program, so for the first year, we just had a big open outreach for the entire community. We did it over 2 days. We had doctors who were generalists, like general practitioners. We had cardiologists. We did pretty much everything but surgery. We had ophthalmologists and ophthalmic nurses, um,
ENT.
ENT, different specialties. And for 2 days, people just came in and ran through the different specialties, whatever they needed. We gave medicine, we gave out drugs, up to 30-day supply for chronic illnesses, and try to refer as many as we could to the local general hospital and local partners. That was 2017. In 2018, we did the same thing. In 2019, we're doing it differently. So we're looking for more sustainability, because it's hard for us remotely to do follow-up for that many patients, right? And of course, first rule in medicine, do no harm. So we're trying to follow that. So what we did was last year we had toured a local hospital, Equa Hospital, that's been around since the 40s, and it's not in very good shape. So we're sort of adopting it, and we've gone out to help them, raise some awareness and collect some donations. So this year we met with the chairman of the board, and we presented them with a bunch of equipment. So stuff that kids can use in the pediatric ward, like a nebulizer and things like that, drugs, wound care materials and stuff. So I think next year, they have more needs. They need an ultrasound machine, so that will be the next project to try to get that for them.
This year, part of what we're planning to do is also to work with the kids in the scholars program to provide healthcare to them. So last year we had one of the kids in our scholars program that went in for the ENT test, and we discovered that she has hearing issues. Right? So we were able to refer her to the hospital in Ilorin to go and get further testing, and they had to get a hearing aid for her, which the organization paid for. So part of what we're trying to do this year is to get an ENT doctor to go in and kind of work with the kids and see who needs those kind of tests. Those that may or may not need eyeglasses to help them with to be able to see properly. Basic health care that can help and aid education. Right? So those are the things we're planning to do for this year. So there's somebody in the community, that will go into the
Ophthalmic nurse?
optomic nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an optomic nurse that will go into the schools to test eyesight and things like that for the kids.
Yeah, and what we saw, I guess, a correlation between some of these ailments, like the bad eyesight, the hearing loss in one or both ears, and the students' performance in school. And the reason we discovered this one young lady had a problem was, we just noticed like a variation in her grades, and we wondered why. And for this one class in particular, the lack of hearing really affected her, and that's how it came out that there was a problem. So when we see things like that, we try to fix it. But again, it's hard to do it on a large scale because we don't have the resources, and the need is really immense. So like Tunde said, in Omara where we work, there are 8 public, I guess state-owned secondary schools. So we don't work with a federal government college, for example. And between those 8, some of them have as many as 1,000 students, some are smaller. So we can't do everything for everyone. So sometimes it hurts that we have to limit, how many kids we can take. But we also can't be efficient when we're trying to do everything for everybody. So we try to do the best we can, but we want to do more, and we need more resources to do more.
What has been your experience running this organization?
I think the first one was the healthcare program, setting it up. I think the idea we had initially was we didn't want to do it independent of the system. Right? So uh, one of the ideas we had there was that we work with the local hospitals, general hospitals, and the likes to make sure we were talking about sustainability earlier, right? So we didn't want to just come in, do a 1 2 day event, then leave without a sustainability plan in place. So initially, our plan was that we work with local hospitals and use their centers to raise awareness, get people to come in and do their checkouts when they need to. Because if you have the event somewhere else, it's hard to talk about an hospital that is not there. But we had different challenges based on that, which yeah, right,
Yeah, so we had those challenges. We didn't want to wait months to maybe resolve them. So we decided to just use what we had, which was a local high school. So we did the triage in the classroom, and we set up the doctors in the classroom. If anyone is familiar with, rural Nigerian public schools, the classrooms are not much of a classroom, right? So it was very challenging, right? So the thing about doing this work is no matter how much planning you do ahead of time, you're never fully prepared, right? You have to be nimble on your feet. You have to be able to turn on a dime, so to speak, and just change when you need to. So we would get there and we would have all those well laid plans. And then on the eve of the program, we'll discover we can't print out the booklets we need for the kids, for example, or that the location we have chosen doesn't have power. And even when you have a generator, you have to shuttle that generator from one building to another because you only have one. So those are the kinds of, like real life, challenges you have that makes doing the work really hard.
What would you say are the highs and lows so far?
uh, I think for me personally, the one of the highs for me was the first year we did the medical program. There was so we had I think the first day was slow. I think we had about 800 people
Yeah.
the first day. Then the second day we had close to 3,000 people, right, that showed up, and we were not prepared for that.
And the first day was a market day.
It was, yeah.
So unbeknownst to us,
Right.
right? So yeah.
So having that many people, and we had to turn a lot of them back, right? Because it was already getting late. We knew there was no we would be able to see all of them. So I think we turned back about
500, I
500
think.
of them, yeah. Which was really hard to do and to be able to tell them that no, we could see them. There were some people that came from a neighboring community that at the end could have to figure out how to get a doctor to quickly see them. Then in addition to that, there was a kid that came like
I think he had a sickle cell crisis.
right.
11-year-old boy, and for whatever reason, there's a decently equipped general hospital in town, right? But it's not free, right? And the cost of access, I think at the time was like 250 naira, which is less than $1. Um, for some reason that was prohibitive
Yeah.
to the mom. The dad wasn't in the picture. So they took them to, a prayer house of some sort. Um, that worsened the situation. The boy needed blood transfusion, so we had to arrange that, got him rushed to the general hospital. I think that was tough to see. He was almost lifeless at that point. Um, yeah, but so they talked about from a personal, perspective, how he feels. One of the highs for me was maybe 5 6 weeks ago when we got this girl her
Yeah.
hearing aid. So again, because of the nature of the communities we work in, you have to plan everything, right? So she lives in Amara, which is a pretty rural community. The nearest city is Ilorin, but this particular service was not available there. So we had to get the doctor from Ilorin to meet her and her mom at a different town, then bring them over to Oshobo. to get this thing done. So everything had to be tightly orchestrated to make it work. But we were able to make it work. So when we got those pictures, that was probably one of the best days I've had in 3 years, because maybe it's just our nature. We try to shut out all the noise when we're doing the work. Nigerians are very effusive in their praise when we do this stuff, but we don't really listen to the praise because we're thinking about the next challenge. And we're like, don't spend time praising us, help us, But that was the one time, in spite of myself, that I almost broke down, because that was really tough to see. Yeah, it was heartening but tough at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, you just finished your third outreach. Could you tell us more about it?
All right, so as we mentioned earlier, so we didn't do the full medical this year, which was easier. But so that gave us more time to spend with the kids in the secondary school. So we had a series of feedback from them, what works, what is not working. They told us a lot about their teachers, who is the best teacher, who is the worst teacher,
Who doesn't have teachers?
Who doesn't have teachers. Alright, so it was a good 3-4 days just talking to the kids. And in addition to that, we had the programs. So this year, we had partners with Google, the center representative that came with us and took the kids through Google and how to be safe on computers and online, and how to search for things, the benefits of Google Books and things like that. So that was good. Also, one of the things in Nigeria now is that the exams, the JAMB exam, is not computer based, right? Which for many of the students, so the first day we asked many of them, how many of you have ever used a computer before? And more than 70%.
I think it was in our room. That particular session was 80 students, and only 5 had ever touched a computer in any capacity. Right. And for context, for I guess our friends who may not be Nigerian, these kids are like 10th graders, the equivalent of U.S. 10th graders, and in 12th grade they would have to sit for JAM, which is the Nigerian equivalent of the SATs, right. And it's fully computer based. So many of them will fail just because they've never used a computer before. So you can't expect a kid to be at their optimal best when the vehicle to deliver the test
is scary.
It's completely foreign to them, and they can't even turn on a computer. So one of the sessions that our Google rep who came with us led the kids through was a CBT, computer-based testing primer, and kids couldn't have been more attentive. Because for a lot of them who don't want to be technologists, they were hoping that our coding camp will teach them how to take online tests or computer-based tests. So and that's another thing we're learning, like not to impose what we think on the people we're trying to do better for, but to listen to the kids, listen to the principals, listen to the teachers, and try to, that way we can match our aspirations with the realities on the ground. And that was one reality we were not prepared for.
Talk about the medical, scholarship, and coding part of the program.
I guess I'll start with the coding. So we started the coding camp last year, so during our second outreach. And if I could take a step back, the reason we thought we would, this was, actually let me give you credit for this, because so between the two of us, like we're both like dreamers, but Sunday takes dreaming to like an extreme level, right? So he's like an extreme dreamer, right? When I'm dreaming, I'm dreaming, but I'm also like checking myself, and he's just dreaming. So he thought, hey, what can we do? We were talking, and we thought, what can we do to tweak the program, take it to the next level? And he's like, let's have a coding camp. I'm like, you're insane. I'm like, we literally we can't find a good computer.
There are no computers.
Yeah, on any of the 8 campuses.
Yeah.
How are we going to do this? And he's like, we'll bring our own computers. I'm like, how? We can barely buy drugs, So I'm running this thing through. I'm like, this is crazy. And then we bring in 2 of our friends who are full-time technologists. We just play technologists on WhatsApp. And before we knew it, we had a coding curriculum. So that was the one thing. Going through that experience taught us that you literally can't do anything, because I think from any objective way of looking at it, it makes no sense. But we look at it this way. In a few years, even now, right, the world is going to be all about technology. And in Nigeria today, there are kids building ridiculous stuff with computers, right? And our kids in the 3rd largest city in Kwara, are not equipped to do this. So we thought we want them to think beyond where they are, and it's hard to tell them to think beyond where they are when they've never touched a computer before. So that's the coding camp. We had 68, 70 kids go through the first curriculum last year. This year we're going to have another 80, and then we want to do it every 6 months so we can roll through as many kids as possible.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate so we have a place that we hold a coding camp in one of the hotels in the community, Musanti Hotel.
Yeah, we should shout them out.
Shout out.
Yeah, Musanti Hotel has been very supportive of everything we're doing in Amara. Yeah.
So because part of the first time we wanted to do it, we realized in the secondary school we wanted to use, there was no lights. The day before,
no power.
The transformers went out, and there was no way we could power the place. So he volunteered and gave us a room, and
That's awesome.
so it's been good. So since then, it gave us their hall for free. So every Saturday we have 2 sessions. The kids go in there. We have a curriculum for them. They have time to practice and play around with computers. So they spend the last 1 year on the computers, just learning and also getting comfortable with computers.
And we hired a full-time teacher,
Right.
to help them. And I think just recently, one of the teachers from the community has also joined the program. So he's volunteering his time on Saturdays to help out his kids.
So we'll have 2 teachers. So we need to buy more computers.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So the scholarship program, so they took exams on Monday, which we've graded already. So for those of you that want to check the kind of questions that we ask out, you can go to our website, the Facebook page. Those exams are hard, but you see many of the kids still do very well in it. I think the highest this year was about 19, 20, about
Out
20.
of 25.
Out of 25.
Again, for context, I have a math degree,
Yeah.
and I have engineering and computer science degree, and I gave up on the 13th question. I was like, what, I don't have to do this. This is too hard. So the first year, Tunde and I were taking bets on what the high score was going to be, and I thought 11, and 11 would have barely been a qualifying grade. Right. That's how well the kids did. So in spite of, I think we had a 18 and several 17s that first year, and last year they did even better because now with each year they go back to tell the younger ones what it's about, and this kid's coming prepared. So again, there's green shoots everywhere. Absolutely, and it's really impossible to give people who have never been in these communities a sense of how dire the situation is. I mean, I tend to be pretty pessimistic by nature, but even I couldn't paint an accurate enough picture of just how dire it is. So to see kids come out and be able to perform, this is like aptitude, like quantitative aptitude type stuff at the very highest level is encouraging. Yeah.
So this year they were at a session where they were in groups, and we asked them to talk about to come up with ideas on what problems that they have in the communities and how to solve them, and they came up with a lot of interesting ideas. Talking about getting automated mosquito
repellents
repellents
that you can stick to your ceiling fan
yeah,
and things like that.
self-driving cars,
Yeah.
and so many different things that we know they've not. It exists right now, but it's not something that they've seen themselves, but they're able to conceptualize it.
Yeah.
So,
A guy wanted to figure out a way um, for passengers to safely eject out of a moving airplane.
yeah.
But again, this is someone who's never had access to the internet, so I know he didn't just
Didn't
copy
Google
it.
it, no.
This was something that came in just organically to
Right.
him. So we worked with him on, hey, what's the speed of a car? What's the speed of an aircraft? At what trajectory is it moving? When do you want to eject? Things like that, just to get them to think, and to think a little differently than what they used to.
The scholarship that we give is a little part of it, but it's more to get them to see the bigger pictures in many of the classes they're taking, right? So not just think about passing exams, but think about other things in the communities. So how will what are the problems, what are the issues, how do you provide value, right? And then get exposed to other things, right? So we talk to them about career, we talk to them about life, talk to them about how they can be useful in the community, and make sure that all these things that we're doing, that linkages in all around it. So coding camp is not just for engineers, it's not just
Yeah.
for computer scientists. We're doing it because it's useful for everybody. I'm not a computer engineer, but I do a lot of coding. Right? We show them videos of fashion designers, DJs using computers, right? So that they can see how the linkages between all these things, right? And be able to apply it.
Yeah. And for those who want to be different things when they grow up, like
Yeah.
we challenge them.
Yeah.
You want to be a physician. So say you become a surgeon. Would it be better to do like computer guided surgery or to just go in and hack your patient into and then whatever happens happens? So think about it. What's the, would your patient's prognosis be better if you could make a little keyhole or if you had to like saw them in half, And then we make them think about that and then they go, oh, that makes sense. This is why I need to be in this class so I can be a more useful doctor in the future. Same thing with farming. For a lot of them, it's a rural community, so farming is big. Farming is one of the reasons attendance is a problem at our Saturday classes because some of the kids have to go to the farm with their parents. So one of the solutions they came up with in our brainstorming session was like a security system to protect their farms from predators and also from thieves. So just putting all those together, it's challenging at first, but once you make that breakthrough, the kids just go off and they start thinking for themselves. Yeah, absolutely.
So the medical, as Akin mentioned earlier, is going to be primarily supporting the local hospitals, right? Raising donations and equipment and support, and then also for the kids to provide eye tests, hearing tests, and things to aid their education. Right? So for now, we'll concentrate a lot on that, and then at some point we'll also go back to the community health care program for the whole community to come in. But for now, we'll concentrate a lot more on doing that.
Yeah. Well, one other thing we're doing this year, and that's in motion right now, is we met with the principals of each of the 8 schools, and this is what we thought they would say, but there was literally none of them that had a first aid box on campus. And like I said, one of the schools has 1,000 students, so no first aid box. So we made an initial donation of, just for each of the schools, we provided digital thermometers and blood pressure machines. And now we've hired someone to go create, a first aid box for each school. We probably need more than one for some of the large schools, but this will be a start. So it will be, fully equipped with everything you need. So that will be one of the things, we can do to, to move this healthcare thing along a little bit.
So why coding?
It's the future.
Is the future. So what we teach them is like the backbone for almost all the fields, right? So the AI, everything now needs some kind of coding, right? So you need to at least understand how it works, right, in order to apply it. And it also helps you to understand the logic, right? So it's pretty much it helps you to think analytically and say, all right, if I do this, I see this result, right? For me to do this, I need to do X, Y, and Z, right? So no matter what field you are, you need to understand how to do that logic and be able to see the output from that. And it's a skill that all the kids should have, no matter what, either it's science class and social science or the arts class, whatever it is, you need to be able to do computer coding. So for both of us, so Akin is an engineer, turned lawyer turned engineer, right? And getting through high school in Nigeria, even first year of college without a coding experience or computer experience, but it's a computer engineering major. Right? I did up to almost a master's in economics and never did any coding before. Then I get into the US, get into the PhD program, and I'm asked to code something, and I'm wondering what is MATLAB, what is all this stuff, right? So that's the reason why I think it's very important, because it's also the foundation for everything. Right? Yeah.
So, what's your approach? Could you give more details on the curriculum?
For coding, or for just in general?
In general.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So with the kid, okay, so for us, I would say, yeah, well, I mean, this might sound a little grandiose, but we're both like big thinkers. So we have a lot of little problems we need to solve, but we think big ideas is how you do it, right? So not just nibbling, around the edges. The system is completely messed up. There's no nice way to say it. Most of the places we go into, there is no structure in place. Just for context, Tunde was talking about the interviews we did with all the kids, and of the 8 schools we work with, there wasn't a single school that wasn't missing a teacher in a critical subject. The best resourced school we worked with, I mean, they're so well resourced that when we showed up the first year, they didn't talk to us, right? Because they thought they didn't need the help, right? So we had to prove ourselves, and then they joined us the second year. But that's just for context, right? That school is missing 4 teachers. When I say missing, meaning they're not, they're not on the school payroll. There is no teacher. There was another school where, the math teacher showed up. I think it was 2 classes, like literally 2 days, the whole term. Another school didn't have an English teacher for 2 terms out of 3. So the principal just shows up a week before finals and teaches something, and the kids write the finals. So this is what we're dealing with, right? And short of blowing it all up, which we can't, we don't have the power to do, and short of marching into the governor's office and saying, what the hell are you doing? This is the best we can do. So we feel like technology is the great leveler, you know what I mean? So technology doesn't care. Like, there are people in Yaba in Lagos who are building world-class infrastructure, right? And Yaba still doesn't look world-class, right? Right next to those offices are local, primary schools where the kids don't go in class for half the day because all they do is play, right? So you can have this juxtaposition of ridiculous stuff happening on the positive and also on the negative side. So our approach is, don't take no for an answer. When we're met with traditionalists, we're nice to them. We say we're very nice people, we're very polite, but we do what the hell we want, because if you come with the traditional approach is how we got here in the first place, right? So we won't let the tradition stop us, and we challenge people, including, the people who run the system, because clearly you look at the kids and whatever you're doing is not working, right? Mm-hmm. So why not try something else?
And we got to hear about the results of the students that graduating from high school, and for us it was alarming in different ways, and so that's part of why we're trying to help So we're going to get teachers that will do extra classes for the kids to help them with their WIAC and JAM exams, and just see all the different things that we can do to be able to support the kids in the communities to excel despite whatever it is, despite the system. To yeah.
So I think that was one of the hardest sessions we had, when we were in the community this year. So then I joke that the more we go in, the worse things seem to become. The more problems we discover, the more you do, the more there is to do, right?
Yeah.
So again, I think examples help, right? So we have 8 schools we're working with. We were trying to figure out how we can help the kids, maybe pay for their JAMB exams, because we're seeing a trend where kids graduate high school, they take WIAC, again for non-Nigerians, that's, let's call it your school leaving certificate, right? You take it in however many subjects, 9 or 8 or 10. But then you also have the JAM, which allows you to go into universities and
Your
polytechnics.
SATs.
Yeah, that's like your SATs. And now we're saying, I'll give you an example. One school had 100 students coming to the last year of secondary school, high school, but only 32 write the final exam, right? And I'm like, everyone should be running up and down, yelling and screaming and being upset about this, but no one is. Now, there are many reasons why that happens, because some kids voluntarily go into schools in other communities where they're allowed to cheat, right? So that's a problem. Others don't have the money to pay for the test. And that's just the first step. That's the WIAC, NECO, school leaving certificate. Now the next step is the JAM. Some parents say, I don't have the money to pay for an additional test. So prove yourself, get the requisite number of credits first, then I'll pay for JAM. So the kids lose a year just hanging out. So there's a crisis. Again, I'll repeat, this is the 3rd largest community in one of the 36 states of Nigeria. This is not a tiny village, right? And this is the problem happening. And nobody knows about it or nobody cares, and that's upsetting, So people should be running like crazy and beating somebody up. But everyone is just showing up to work, happy-go-lucky, like everything's good. So that's hard to take.
What's next for CBDP?
Another year of computer coding for the new batch of students, and we're going to do as much as we can to invest in the kids and make sure that they're productive member of the society. They understand the value of education. They understand that if they work hard, there's a big reward out there. We always tell them we need them to be great, and we know if they are great at something, no matter where you are, it's in a rural area or a big town or whatever it is, you're gonna be good. All right, so we'll spend a lot of time doing that. Hopefully, continue partnership with Google, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Our first 18 kids are going into their final year of secondary school. So that's big for us. They would have been with us 3 years at the end of this school year. So those were our guinea pigs, our pilot class. So seeing how they do would be important. Tunde likes to run his numbers, his economic models and randomizations and stuff. So that will be important to see, what was their trajectory before we came in. What is it now? How many of them go on to some tertiary school, and what did they do after that? So we'll keep tracking them. For those, we've committed to paying for their JAM test for 18 of them. We have to find money to do the same for the next 40. And then we're also, after interviewing the kids from the 8 schools, we have the names of their favorite teachers in every subject. So we're trying to put together extra classes geared towards prepping for these exams coming up with those teachers. So we need to raise some funds to do that as well.
Okay, that concludes our talk. Thank you, Akin and Tunde, for being here.
Yes.
Thank you.